In this video, I'm going to show you how to build these beautiful, durable, and inexpensive raised beds. These DIY cedar fence picket raised beds went viral on all of my social media channels, and I've literally gotten thousands of requests to make a tutorial video. So let's get building. What I love about making raised beds with cedar fence pickets is that you could pretty much make them any size, shape, and depth that you want. They're standard 6 feet long and 5.5 inches wide. So if I want a shallow raised bed, I just use one fence picket. If I want it a little bit deeper, I just use two fence pickets. If I want it a little bit deeper, I just use three fence pickets. So you can make them as long and wide and deep as you want. I've got a couple here that are going into their 4th year and they're holding up great. The reason why cedar is so amazing for creating garden beds is because it is very rot resistant. It's going to last a long time. Even using the thinner material like a fence picket still has great rot characteristics, but you don't have to spend all of that money buying true cedar lumber. So you get the benefits of the durability and the cost savings of using fence pickets. Today we're going to be creating 2 new raised beds for either side of my garden entrance for some new flower beds. So let's get to work. For the flower beds that I'm building today, I've already decided that I want them to be 2 fence pickets deep, which means I'm going to have an 11-inch deep garden bed. But the very first thing that you want to do is figure out how deep of a garden bed do you want. Do you want it 5.5 inches, 11 inches, or 16.5 inches, or even deeper? Because the first thing that we're going to do is create the corner braces, and they need to be just as deep as your raised bed. Always measure twice and cut once. So I know I want them to be 2 fence pickets deep, so I'm going to put my 2 fence pickets next to each other and measure just to make sure that my measurement is correct. And as you can see, it's 11 inches. For the raised bed braces, I'm going to be using treated 2x4 lumber. Now wait, before you click away, just hold on a second. Treated lumber has drastically changed in the recent past. It is now treated by using pressurized copper, which essentially increases the rot resistant characteristics of traditional pine lumber. But if you still don't want to use this in the garden, I completely understand. Just go ahead and get yourself some untreated pine, or you can level up your garden beds by getting some 2x4 cedar. I'm comfortable using this in this situation because, as I said, copper is much safer for the garden than those other harsh chemicals that they used to pump this wood with. And I'm also using this for a flower bed, so in this circumstance, I'm good with it. Now what I'm going to do is create 4 corner braces and 2 side braces for the long side of the raised bed. I'm going to make a 6-foot by 2-foot flower bed. So what I want to do is cut 10 11-inch pieces, which will be the same depth as my garden bed. And for the best results, it's always best to measure and cut each piece one at a time. All right, with our 10 pieces that we cut for an individual raised bed, we're going to take 8 of them to make 4 corner braces. And all you have to do is put them together like this to make a nice L shape, and we're going to attach them together with some deck screws. What I recommend doing is working on a flat level surface. So that way you can literally just put them down, put one flat, make an L with the other one. Make sure the edges are relatively flush. They don't need to be perfect. And then whenever you're working with lumber, especially pine, treated or untreated, you want to make sure you pre-drill your holes. So that way when you drill in the screw, it doesn't actually crack the piece of wood. So I'm going to drill 3 pilot holes. I'm going to use 3 screws for each corner brace. So we're going to do one near the bottom, one near the middle, and one at the top. And since 2x4s are 1.5 inches thick, I'm going to be using 2.5-inch deck screws to ensure that I get through that first piece of wood and into the second. Now that we've got the corner braces, we're going to create the actual long sides of the raised bed. So grab 2 of them and we're going to lay them out on the floor. So we can lay these out so that way they're 6 feet from the outside of each brace. And then we're going to measure the inside of the brace, which will tell us how long our fence picket needs to be cut to. And this looks like it's going to be 68 3/4 inches. So I want to create 2 6-foot sides, and I want it to be 2 cedar fence pickets deep. And that means I need 4 cedar fence pickets. So what I'm going to do is just stack them all up together on my miter saw, make one measurement at 68 3/4 inches, and we'll assemble the sides. Ah, that smells so good. Once I lay these out, hopefully it makes more sense. So now I'm going to use 2 of these fence pickets, just put them on the inside of the braces here. And I'm using the short end of the brace first. Put them on the inside of the braces like that. Put another one here. Now, if you were to measure to the outside of the braces again, they'd be 6 feet long, which is exactly why we made this cut. So you can get real specific, or you can just leave them as is, screw them in, and that's perfectly fine as well. I'm just gonna pick one side of the corner brace to get the fence pickets flush with, because that's gonna act like the top of our raised bed once we put the final touches on. And to actually attach the picket to the brace itself, I'm going to be using 1 5/8 inch deck screws. You don't need as long as a deck screw because you're only going in through this piece of picket into the wood like that. But again, make sure that you are pre-drilling your holes, and I like to use 2 screws for each fence picket. I like to do them one at a time, just so that way I know everything is aligned. So I'm going to go to the other side now. Make sure it's aligned at the top. That looks good. Make sure this brace is pushed up tight against the picket. There we go. And we'll just repeat for the bottom picket. Now, since these sides are so long, they will bow a little once you actually fill it with soil. So what I like to do is add another brace right down the center here. So the way I do that is lay it down flat on the ground, and we're going to measure to find the center. So it should be at 3 feet since this raised bed is 6 feet long. Yep, and we're exactly 3 feet to the center. So I'm going to grab my pencil and mark my 3-foot point there. And I want to do this at the top and the bottom. This is where we're going to use the 2 leftover braces that we cut. And now we want to find the center of this brace. So these are 3.5 inches. So that means we're going to go 1 3/4 inches to the center, again at the top and the bottom. Now we're going to slide this underneath of our pickets here. So that way we can easily screw the pickets and attach it to the side brace. And you want to just try to get these lines as close as you can, so that way you know the brace is perfectly center. And then once you're happy with the position, make your pilot holes, screw it in. There we go. With the long sides made, now we need to make the short edges. So what I like to do is flip this over again on a level surface, so that way the top is on the bottom. Since we had the cedar fence pickets flush to the top, we want to make sure that it stays nice and flat. So I'm going to flip this one. I got my other side right here. Now I want these raised beds to be 2 feet wide. So just like I did to install the first set of fence pickets, I want to measure from brace to brace 2 feet on this side. So that's 2 foot there. Same thing over here. And this might take a little bit of back and forth. And once we've got it the right width, we want to measure the inside of the braces once again to figure out the dimensions that we need to cut the cedar fence pickets to make the short edge of the raised bed. And it looks like we need to cut them to 19 3/4 inches. I already pre-drilled my pilot holes. So now I'm just gonna take the fence pickets, get them in, and push the bottom together. So that way it's nice and flush. Put the other one on top. Make sure that they both fit nicely. And we'll screw them in. Man, that's looking really good. And honestly, if you wanted to, you could probably leave it just like this if you like the way it looks. But what I like to do is finalize the design, give it a little bit more elegance, but also provide myself a place to sit and work. So what I want to do is trim out the whole top with 2x4s. Now, if we did everything right, the dimensions should be 6 foot, bam, by 2 foot. Perfect. So now what I'm gonna do is take my 2x4s, cut a 6 foot piece and a 2 foot piece, 2 of each, in order to make the top. And part of the reason why I chose to make a 6 foot by 2 foot raised bed is because a 2x4 is 8 feet long standard. So now I just have to make one cut and I'll have one 6 foot piece and a 2 foot piece. The last thing I'm gonna do before I actually attach the top piece to the raised bed is cut a 45-degree angle. So that way it'll make like a nice picture frame all the way around the raised bed. Now I've got a miter saw, which makes it really simple. I literally just take this, set it to a 45-degree angle, and make my cuts. But if you don't have a miter saw and you're using a hand saw, we wanna measure the side of the 2x4 here, measure down the length of it, make a mark, and then create a 45-degree line. And then just make your cut with a regular old saw. Now that we got the top trim pieces cut, we're just gonna go ahead and line them up, get them into their locations. And now is the time for you to look at the piece of wood and, attach them so that way it looks nice. We're adding this top trim piece to, provide a little bit of elegance, make it look a little bit prettier. And we want to make sure we take that extra second or two to make sure it looks good. So I'm just gonna take some time, go around, make sure that these corners are lining up as best as they can be before I set everything into place. And does that look pretty good? So we're gonna get out those 2.5-inch deck screws one more time and just go around the edge and attach it to the raised bed. And it's done. And does it look so good? Let's go get it in the garden. The moment of truth. Now I just gotta make sure it fits where I wanted it. Man, this is gonna look so good. I'm excited to be able to fill this space up with some more flowers, make a beautiful entrance to the garden. Probably have to move some stuff around just to get it situated exactly how we want it, but look at that. Beautiful. Well, that's going to sum things up for today's video, and I hope this DIY tutorial truly met your expectations. I want to see you all go out there and create some beautiful raised beds for your gardens. And if you want more detailed instructions on actually how to build these raised beds, I've got plans down in the description. Highly recommended. We've had thousands of people build these raised beds using our plans. So if you want to build a 2 foot by 6 foot option or 3 foot by 6 foot option, and I've got even more designs coming out really soon, go ahead, check out the description of this video for the links to our shop and go ahead and purchase our plans. It means a lot to me. It's a great way to support the channel and continue the creation of videos just like this. Oh, and don't forget to put down in the comments what you want to see me build next.